Good afternoon. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Everything sound okay out there? How's everybody doing? How is everybody doing? Just gonna wait for someone to respond. I can't see any responses, so I'll wait for Bryce. Can you hear me? Hopefully so. Maybe I should go on like Twitter or something. Where can I see where people are chatting? YouTube? Maybe? Somebody tell me something. Bryce. Someone. Bryce is DMing. Okay, you can hear me fine. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Another exciting, enthralling episode of what's coming up in the world of photo finish live. So, yeah, excited to walk you through today, kind of a full PowerPoint, as if you're the board, and some of the plans that we've got coming up, and then realistically, just sort of the vision for the long term. We've been working on this game for a long time, so I want to walk through some of the stuff we've done in the past, talk about what we're doing in the future, and then this, of course, culminates at the end with a big community AMA. So our host, Mike Sowers of Tombstone, will hop up and fire questions away. So we'll be here for a while. Grab a drink, settle in, kind of walk through this with you, and we'll go from there. All right, so let's see. 1 second here. Let me double check. I know you can see that, but I'm not seeing it on my side. Double check. Okay. So, uh, you know, 4 years ago, it's a different guy there in that video, prior to lots of anxiety medication. But 4 years ago, we announced to the world that we were working on what we said was going to be the most authentic horse racing game in the world. As real as it gets was our tagline. We shot this out into the Solana ecosystem, into the world at large, to our existing game players, and described exactly how we thought Photo Finish Live would work. It was still called Photo Finish 2 at the time. And you may have disagreed or agreed with any number of decisions that we've made in the last 4 years. But the great news is that you're still here. We have entertained thousands of people at this point. We've built a real economy. It's real competition, and there's real emotion and real passion behind it. So obviously, that's one of my favorite things to see. That's why I build games, is to try and entertain people, engage them. And so on that front, we've definitely succeeded. And it's fun to look at some of these stats and see how real what we built. So over 359,024 races as of last night when I checked. That's over, and I also checked how many furlongs. 17 million furlongs have been run by our horses, and they've circled the earth over 88 times if you stretched it out. So pretty magical, of course, ridiculous, but it's wild to see the engagement of this little idea that we had 4 years ago to be to where it is today. At the same time, that authenticity, the as real as it gets, that we really tried so hard to stick to, comes with friction, right? I mean, horse racing in general is a relatively hardcore sport to get into, to be a fan of, to understand at the sort of in-depth level. But horse ownership really takes that to another level. And I think if you look back at the 4 years, I mean, it's taken us a lot of time to really find our way on who the game is exactly for. Is it a gambler? Is it crypto people? Is it the spreadsheet jockey? Is it a horse racing fan? And we still struggle with that. A lot of times you're trying to serve a lot of different masters, and trying to dial in what the user experience is, who we want it to be for. That's something we work on all the time. But I thought this was interesting. I just randomly grabbed a race at Monmouth Park, and I grabbed one of our screenshots of the racing view. I mean, it's like, if you're a normal person walking up into this and trying to understand like 119 pounds, older, 123 pounds, claiming price 16,000 for each 1,000, 14,000, 1 pound. It's like, if you're into the sport, you get it, but it's not easy by any stretch of the means. So that friction has been there, and we've really seen that for new players. So this is the last 20 seasons, um, and this is basically average spend per user per join season. So you obviously had a lot of the people coming in the tail end of kind of the big, pump of crown, but overall, it's just sort of like this is nothing compared to the early user average spend, right? I mean, it's kind of like a half or a quarter or even an eighth of what early cohorts spend. And what you're seeing there is just, yeah, for someone new that's coming into the game is difficult. Surely, we can debate on which is the most important difficult part that's too difficult in terms of priority order. And we do debate that a lot internally, and I know you all debate it as well all the time on Discord. But I think the good news of that is that we can all kind of agree on some core concepts. The game is hard to understand. There is a lot of waiting involved. So hours, days, months for progress sometimes, right? To see your race, to wait for your horse to recover, to see your breeds. Everything takes a long time. Real money is obviously a huge barrier to entry. Crypto, as it's been sort of hidden for the most part, it's still there. That's a big barrier to entry. And I think one of the big ones too we talk about, just sort of gloss over, but it's really extremely easy to lose money. And that meaning, by entering the wrong race or buying the wrong horse. Along with all that, every single season that we play, our core cohorts, you probably the ones that are watching this stream, become stronger and smarter. And so over time, you really start to see that sort of sharks feasting on new fish that enter into the ocean. And that's not, different. That's every game. Drop into a Battlefield lobby, drop into a Call of Duty, drop into anything, drop into League of Legends. There are sharks there waiting for the new people. And that's always a challenge. So it's something that I don't think we've done great at, though. We haven't walled off that area to make it, uh, super enlightening and fun and delightful when you join the game. It's very difficult. So I think we can all agree that it's too difficult. And step back at two is like you're looking at 4 years of marketing that really didn't scale. So I was trying to write these all down and make pictures of them, and it actually became too much. So I'm going to just read this paragraph out. So influencers, podcasts, advisors, crypto bros, shill accounts, to Telegram accounts, paid ads, free ads, racetrack programs, custom landing pages, SEO, YouTube streamers, kick streamers, content creators, real racing personalities, Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, affiliate program, live streams in Vegas, Churchill Downs infield, Churchill Downs big screen, Louisville bars, bourbon partnerships, Breakpoint main stage, Solana account, gaming conferences, gambling conferences, Maidon, Super Team, Hacker Houses. I know I'm leaving these things out, or I'm leaving some more things out, but we've really done a lot of marketing efforts. And, here we are still with sort of the same group of people that's still playing it. Maybe the marketing strategy sucked. Maybe it's as simple as the trainer series sucks. We can debate all that, and that's actually kind of fun to chat about in the Discord for me. But I think it's just really worth knowing in the main forum that with real money restrictions, with general difficulty to play, and really the slow pace, all contribute to it being hard to grow meaningfully. At least without what we saw prior, which is the promise of outsized money prizes. That's sort of the one that's got to be there that obviously we saw prior. And that's not to say that we can't find people that enjoy this game. I mean, you saw on the graph before, every season new people join and find it and love it. But I'm really talking about sort of that next level, that turning point in a business. Our goal has always been, get to this region of 10,000 monthly players putting up $100 a season, or 100,000 monthly players doing $10 a season. Then you can move that up to $25 a season. Those types of numbers have always been the goal, and have escaped us. I think we all know that. The great part, of course, though, again, is that the core has endured. This was really eye-opening. Some of you noticed probably last night in the Discord the bot that was running to do all this. But PFJC discussion, which is a gated channel in our Discord, has 380,000 messages, over 260 a day, over 1,500 days. So for 1,500 days, there's been 260 messages a day sent in that channel. In 2025 alone, over 500 messages a day. The core is amazing. The community that plays this game is so unbelievably great that we obviously couldn't do it without you, and we're building that here for you, right? The general chat I didn't include on here. That has over 600,000 messages, over 400 a day. Funny, I looked to try and find the highest overall day ever was 3,660 messages in a single day, and that was the night of the PFP mint. So I'll show you how NFT Solana mania, how crazy it was back then. But yeah, so step back though. Okay, doom and gloom, it's negative, feels bad, but also step back and try to view the glass half full. Not one of my strengths, but the team told me I should throw this in there. But $56 million in race entry and handle. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. 35 million in breeding and studying. You're looking at the SS first horse being born last season, which is a perfect sort of description of how the game's sustainability has worked out. The genetic code and all these things that have been in play for many, many years. It's like just now to get one leap up of grade here. Very cool to see. We just got certified by actual extremely legitimate the third-party RNG certification provider. We're the number one game on Solana, have been for many, many months, if not years, and we're still an official partner of Kentucky Derby. So a lot to really like about this game, even though we can get in our sort of shame spirals and be upset about certain things. I get it more than all of you, I guarantee, but it happens. So I'm excited moving forward because recently there's really, I think, internally in the team, a real renewed sense of purpose on user delight and priority on user requests. And so you'll see this stuff starting to happen soon. But things like a trophy room that people just sort of breathlessly talk about forever. Things like better filters, better screens. I'm really excited to see some of the stuff that we've been working on come out because these are things that for you. You're the one watching this. You're the one playing. You're the one engaged. And a lot of times I think we, got sidetracked. We would be working on other priorities and just trying to make sure that we always focus on community requests and building the game that you all love. Of course, trying to you have to measure all expectations. Certain people have certain things they want that others don't. But user experience, making it easier to play, and then delighting people, adding things like a trophy room. Are obviously things that we want to always do. And so it's time to really kind of look forward, though. So that's look back 4 years, which is wild. I mean, has anyone here? I'd love to see in the chat. Have you played any other game for 4 years every day? I haven't. But looking forward, it's for us. Photo finish is about the next era is really about focusing on scale, focusing on simplicity, focusing on sustainability. And the next era for third time is really on kind of growing from just a game developer to game technology and more of a provider of things that can help sustain the business entirely, right? Not being so tied to a single product, but expanding into infra that matters for us, that we build for us, but that actually has a lot higher chance of scale. So we'll get into some of that. So the vision statement for 2030. So what does it look like 4 years from now? I see a world in which photo finish, open tote, Churchill Downs, and third-party betting sites are all linked by shared value and growth. And Crown becomes that core currency within the sort of digital horse racing, which we hopefully already have, but online pari-mutuel wagering as well. And so we'll get into some of those discussion points about obviously what we're building, what we've been a part of building, and the next 4 years. So it really rests on 4 pillars to me. How do we do it? It's kind of 4 plans of attack. These I hate doing sort of like marketing-y vision like boards and things like that. But at the same time, you do have to align yourselves, align your team, guide your decision making, guide your hiring, and your planning decisions. So the first pillar for us is onboarding. And again, we'll debate, I'm sure, with you all, with ourselves, which task goes first forever. Regardless, the good news is I think we all agree that it needs to be priority. Like it should be very easy to get a horse and get into the game and have fun quickly, not lose money the moment you walk in. That's a huge pillar. I think we've had lots of opportunities over the years where swaths of new people do view the game and see it. I don't think we've had scalable, campaigns, but lots of people have signed up, but they're not getting down into the weeds like the majority of you. And so much of that is them racing their first horse and leaving for good. It's never racing their first horse, never coming back and checking in after their horse finished. A lot of things that we can do to increase and improve that funnel, which everyone talks about. Second is scalable growth. And I mean, by that, I really just mean simply being able to spend money reliably on methods that will return more money back. Um, Talk about again some of the ways we're going to do this, but this has been also a problem, for us. ROI on campaigns has just never quite worked where we could repeat it. We'll get maybe one person on a campaign that ends up being a great player, but it's just not repeatable. And a lot of that is the product. Sometimes it could be the marketing, but I think a lot of that is the product. It just doesn't hold them like we thought it would. Third is real life partnerships. So not only does this really mean Churchill Downs, of course, continuing to further that partnership out, but it's also to me about really diving deeper into the industry at large. Horse racing is in a really interesting spot where it's aging. A lot of new users are not coming in. And so we have this opportunity where we have actually had experience and success bringing in people, capturing and growing people. Think back to our old games, especially delighting audiences that love the sport. So this is a big part with me is just going to the industry at large, not just Churchill. And then last is photo finish specifically, which is purse funding. I mean, this has obviously been the goal from day zero. It was in the first pitch that external sources at negative sum, like wagering products, help fund purses in the game. So this is the type of thing that to me has to happen for photo finish to become the number one real money game in the world and truly sustainable forever. The design is there. You all seem to really kind of love the game, and you love it way more when the purses are juiced, rightfully so. And so I think it's just cracking that code. And obviously, that's what we've been working for over a couple of years now. Getting close to seeing some of this come to fruition is really exciting. But anyway, these are our pillars. So if you think about which one are we going to be, what are we working on, what are we talking about, this is hopefully it. So I'll dig into some sort of the path of there. As you can see across the bottom, I'll be following that pillar path. Talk a little bit about it. So first is the road to the Derby. So we are now highly focused on bringing new players into PFL, of course, and part of that is improving their onboarding experience. And we've recently reached some alignment with Churchill on how best to really help bring new fans into the game, as well as we believe bring new fans into the sport. And I'll share more details once we have them, once we can. But the goal here is working with them to try and get millions of fans into the door of Road to the Derby. This is their brand that they want to grow. Obviously, we have license for it as well. And of course, the Road to the Derby in a virtual world happens to culminate into a virtual Derby in Photo Finish Live. And some of you astute viewers might have seen some test ad campaigns that we were running. You might have spotted some here and there. But we have been running tests to verify our thesis on this as an idea and have seen really, really strong interest and metrics on those. So excited to sort of move forward and do more with this. And again, we'll obviously convey more about what it is, what does it mean when we can. But just talking about, I think it actually makes a lot of sense. You guys can probably infer and step back and figure it out. But like a road to the Derby is a pretty compelling way to start your photo finish career if you can figure out how to make it work. And I think we've got this cracked. So we'll follow up soon, let you know. Growth is sort of a two-prong approach for us. First is mobile, and we really ran into some roadblocks this year with Google Play. I did not believe it, but they still don't allow photo finish live on Android devices. And we went through back and forth, multiple legal opinions, all of the normal drag that is dealing with a big third party like that. Never got it approved. And so that hurt our plans for growth and UA. We were trying to really at the start of the year kickstart mobile growth, and that really did hurt the plans. Of course, the mobile app wasn't super great at converting players either. But part of what we're working on with Road to the Derby, part of what we're doing with the onboarding experience is really including this mobile first onboarding UX. I think we all would agree. You want something that can be downloaded, utilized in any app store, not geo-locked, works on any mobile browser, any country, any device, and can get you in and funnel you into Photo Finish Live. So more details again to come there, but this is where we see a large growth angle is mobile first. And then also really something we've been pushing towards this year that we made some strides and is really part of 2026 is international expansion, and notably Japan. So we just recently finally got a legal opinion on how we can operate PFL legally in Japan. If you know anything about Japan, gambling is totally illegal in Japan. They do have special stuff with the JRA and horse racing. And so now that we've gotten this legal opinion, we know how to handle this. We've been interviewing and looking to hire basically a Japanese boots on the ground team to help us with localization, community, marketing focus. It's still like early days there, but we've got two applicants we're probably going to be putting offers out to relatively soon, doing at least some contract work to get started. It's not just about like just changing the site to have Japanese text on it. It's a lot more than that. It's about making sure that culturally you're correct and making sure that you've got growth and community able to catch people into the net if they check you out on some site or they've come into the Discord, that you're there to actually capture them. But I'm really encouraged about this as a attack vector because many of you maybe don't know, but Horse Racing Manager was what Photo Finish came from. Horse Racing Manager is extremely inspired by Japanese mobile game design. Obviously, the S grade, all these things, the way the breeding works, all these things, the attributes, all are extremely inspired from Japanese games. So I actually think that it would feel right at home for a lot of people that may be coming up and trying this out from Japan, but there's still a lot to do there. Regardless, very excited about that possible angle. Moving into partnerships, so I mentioned this on Twitter. Obviously, it's Churchill Downs. We're trying as much as we can to really bear down, especially renewing a deal there, and it hasn't been officially renewed yet. It seems like we've come to terms verbally, but we're almost there. I'll let you know when it's done. But working with them is awesome. We've got a bunch of ideas on Road to the Derby, but the industry at large is an angle that really trying to work our way into right now, and especially here in the U.S. It's a complicated industry. It's very insular. Every little track and ownership group is different, but we kind of talk to you about kind of what we really want here. So in a couple of months, I'm speaking on a panel at this global symposium on racing. So I'm very excited to talk there, to go meet all these people. This is all real horse racing folks. The Bob Bafferts and people are all at this thing. And the panel is about how video games and interactive experiences can help grow the sport. And the audience there again is the entire industry. So I'm hoping to make strides here into the real industry as somewhat of a thought leader. I hate using that term, but someone coming into it and saying, hey, we've got this angle of attack that getting young people, getting people that are into crypto, getting people that are into technology interested in your sport. Here's what we can offer. Here's what we can do. And part of that, the reason I'm doing that is my ultimate plan is to bring a stable coin tote to really improve the user experience of horse racing, to betting in general into the modern 21st century, which is a 10 billion a year industry, and tackling that in the U.S., bringing that into the regulatory market of the U.S. is extremely difficult. But we've been working through this, and again, you can follow Twitter, some of the threads that we've talked about. But we've got an entity in Oregon set up now. The inroads are being made. We've got 3 or 4 meetings we've had and are continuing to have with people that are track operators and their current problems with current tote technology. What can we improve? What can we do better? What's worse? That kind of thing in terms of being able to capture volume of horse racing and improve the experience for the bettors. Again, there's not much to this. It's a huge technology that exists now that processes billions and billions in handle that is built on archaic plumbing. We think stablecoin and Solana specifically are huge disruptor in the space, but we can't just like fall right into it. It definitely takes some time, and I hope people know that this is going to be a long-term goal, not something that like, all right, on December I'll let you know when we've processed 8 billion in volume. So anyway, next up on partnerships is the Sim Engine. So this has been exciting. A lot of you have seen that we've been going to a lot of gambling conferences lately. So SBC in Lisbon and Florida. And so this is a big initiative we're working on with some of these partners we're discussing with, as well as with Churchill, is to build out our simulation engine to be used at a larger scale. And so this doesn't necessarily, maybe you hear this and you're kind of like, oh, geez, that's not PFL. But realistically, it's about getting the brand out there to be utilized by more operators, which of course would be more reliable revenue source for us. Is always going to be good for PFL in the long term. But what that may look for, or what that may look like for partners, is using this just to create social media campaigns, using our tools, our predictions, our attributes, our simulations. But we're also talking with some of these SBC folks on offering sort of the licensing turnkey solution where they can run and generate races randomly for their various betting products. So that could be just a direct virtual racing product. It could be actually them creating simulations to run in their slot machine. It doesn't matter, but it's effectively a B2B angle of this engine that we've been sitting on and has now generated, as I said, how many did we say? 370,000 races so far. So exciting to kind of get that moved out into something else. And then lastly, purses. So, this goal was laid out a few months ago. It's really getting super close to completion. Ultra excited about it. I know it feels like, oh, when is it going to happen? When is this going to actually be there? Obviously, we're pinging the BetVibe folks every day. But the idea here, of course, to reiterate, if you don't know, open tote, which is this idea of this technology where people can bet in a pool into a tote on stablecoin, USDC, Solana, but it also works on any coin. That drives anyone to be able to create betting pools. And BetVibe's the first partner, and they're doing so by taking real money bets on photo finish, the photo finish races, as well as they're building out pretty in-depth sports and predictions and all these other things. And so if you've been testing out this site, I mean, it's actually coming along. I've been pretty excited to see their progress. And this is a big step because this is just one of those things that this is that negative sum revenue. If a bunch of people lost, or actually it doesn't matter lost because it's a pool. If there's $1 million of volume on this Rangers Caps game, that's maybe 50 grand or 100 grand that now can go back into the Crown ecosystem. So there's just really a lot of excitement to think about this negative sum strategy over here. And their metrics have been pretty cool to see. I mean, obviously it's funny money that they're doing right now. No one's like actually counting the money, but like the amount of handle that's being processed, you start to see the amount of people that are playing is getting better. And we're probably the worst in terms of the cancellations and refunds and stuff that are happening is our races canceling. So getting photo finish back up to full races and all of that will also help push more and more volume over on the BetVibe and open tote side. Lastly, with this too, I've seen some pretty exciting demos of open tote where they're doing really open stuff on making their own pools. So the idea there of like a token launchpad style thing where anybody can make your own pool and royalties would be coming back into the ecosystem. That's super exciting. That's pretty early. I don't know if they want me to talk about it, but there's some pretty cool future vision on not just sports or not just photo finish, but literally any pool, which is cool to see. And last part of purse growth is simulcast. So I know people have asked about this a lot. Obviously, we've Talked about it a lot. We talked about it last year, introduced it. The goal of simulcast, again, to renew or remind folks, is becoming this sort of Trojan horse, getting the open tote stablecoin style betting into bars and restaurants, by providing a product that actually makes money for the operator. And we've tested this out multiple times now in real life bars, and I guess we've had maybe 4 tests, maybe 5, and none of them went all that well. And maybe one of the things I could do more is just talk about the things that we try that fail. We typically just talk about things that worked, but my in-depth opinion of it, and we'll see if it's the truth. We could do another test. Is really the biggest point of friction with it is that it's the unpredictability of photo finish and the photo finish racing schedule. So multiple events that we've had, 18, 20-minute wait time between races. The race might cancel. You're not sure. There could be 3 or 4 races stacked up in a row that take precedent. So there's a lot of unpredictability, which is okay with Photo Finish Live. But when you think about this as like kind of the casual betting product that we thought it would be, it's not hitting the mark. What Photo Finish is now is like a very heavy, like handicapper friendly betting product, somewhere where people can lean in and actually spend some time. They've got a little bit of time to like read forms. But that's not necessarily what simulcast is. This is definitely a casual product that's just running. And so one of the next tests we're going to be running is attempting a style on that. If you've ever watched Fortune Cup in Vegas, for example, the race is done in 30 seconds, new races every 2 minutes. It's more like akin to an online, roulette or something, just really, really quick, fast pace. So we're going to try and run some tests on that though, and see if that clicks, see if that works, see if anyone sticks onto that even more, where it's much more of a like similar to a tab or any of the ones run in Australia, where it's just running really quickly rather than slow. And so I still really believe in this product. I think it has a great chance to expand the usage and the knowledge of photo finish. And I think as a product, like to help affiliates, to help bar owners make revenue, it's like amazing. But obviously the product has to be good. You need solid product test results before you start to roll it out, and they just haven't been great. And so we're gonna keep testing it. I think that's, again, one of those things you talk about. Like, no one gets everything right the first time. You just test it. That's what we're gonna keep trying to do. So anyway, summary. We got a game that lasts. We built a game that really entertains. And I think just all of us on the team have just got to remain really laser focused on making it grow. How do we grow it? It's not like run a marketing campaign. It's like fix the sort of rotten part of the beginning to make sure that you can run marketing campaigns. And so, along with that, we've got to expand our horizons a little to get more reliable rev share and revenue streams in, given all the stuff that we have, which is good. I think entering the real industry, entering real life casino markets, entering B2B with all of these things that we have in a more official way is just great for the company in general. Gives a lot more solid backstop while we continue to iterate on Photo Finish Live. And I think just to say some things are going to work, some things won't. I think hopefully you know me at this point. You can just be sure that I'm not going to stop grinding. I'm going to figure it out. Maybe I'll die trying. I don't know. But I'm here. Never stopping. So anyway, so next up we've got one question. Oh yeah, somebody did say make sure I ask this. So how can you help? A lot of times I think there's sort of like that sentiment of like, man, all of you guys are legends. Like, well, what can we do? We don't even know what we're supposed to do right now. How can we help grow this game? How can we help? So right now, I'd say the priorities are: number one, go test BetVibe. Improve that product, right? If you test that product and improve it, like you give feedback, you check it out, you like it, you tell friends about it. That is like the most meaningful, easy way to affect your own bags, right? It's like if you make the product better from suggestions or from testing, if you make it better by telling friends to come and play it, and volume kicks up on that site, it's a whole different world in photo finish if volume kicks up on BetVibe, right? I mean, that's the plan. So that's obviously the best way to help. Number two, on how to help is just, yeah, stay connected and stay plugged in. I think you guys are all doing a great job of that already, but like, we just love having you around. I know, we may get surly. Everyone might get argumentative. Uh, bear market vibes can hurt everyone, but 1,500 days of 300 messages a day. Just keep doing that, right? And then last, yeah, just spread the love. I think we don't have to, even negatively do anything, but just being able to respond as, you know, people are, um, sorry, just got an alert. um, Being able to respond as people are talking about games in Web3, or talking about communities in Web3, and asking about, oh, where should I go? Where should I go find a place to go? Spread the love. Like, there's so much to like about this community, even if we argue all the time about what's the right approach to do certain things in the game. We still got a game that we love to play, for the most part, and go from there. So that's all. Now I will bring up my friend, colleague. Speaking of one of those legends that's been around, I'm going to let up Mr. Mike Sowers, the one and only Mike Sowers, who, can you hear me, Mike?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear
Oh, look
me?
at that. Yeah, you're a little low in volume, but not too bad. Let's
Hmm.
see. How do I stop sharing?
I can
Okay.
yell. I'm
There you go.
pretty
That
good
sounds
yeller.
that sounds
Is
pretty
that
good.
better?
Yeah. So just saw the big deck. You've probably got hundreds of thousands of questions to ask. How are you doing today? Number one.
I'm doing really good. I think it's kind of funny. I think you and I share a lot of similar anxiety issues. I know you've been very vulnerable in sharing that. And it was funny because in preparing with this, I've had a coach now for 14 years that I use with poker life. He was
Hmm.
actually the officiant in our wedding. And I remember our last, discourse. Me and you have had a lot of discourse, private channels, public channels. And the last time breeding kind of was off, I was acting pretty angry, obviously I was upset. Been like the third time. So we were kind of seeing this pattern, wondering what's going on. And I
Right.
was kind of discussing this with him. I used to be a football coach, and I was thinking, like, well, how would I react with my quarterback when he's making a mistake? And I was like, I would never be going off on him, being negative, all of these things. So I had a positive shift the next day in my conversation with him. It was like, I need to work with the team the same way I would be a coach, and that's, support you guys, love you guys, which, I've done a lot of that, but I think that that was probably one of the things that me personally I could work on. And I think, as we get through this question and answer, we're going to talk and kind of deep dive a lot about the stuff that we think, as a community, either is an issue or things we want to see. But I just think it's so cool of you to come on and do this. I think today isn't really about like creating drama. I kind of feel like that's for back channels. I think today is really about transparency, progress, and just kind of understanding your vision moving forward, And so I just appreciate you coming on. I don't know that many people would do this. And, for everyone watching, I basically was like, look, Ian, I sent him a Telegram message, like, I can give you what I'm going to ask you. He's like, no, surprise me, which is a little psychotic, but I love that about you. That you don't want to try to prepare or
I'm
have
gonna
canned
rehearse.
answers. Yeah,
No,
you're going
no.
to kind of,
Yeah.
shoot from the hip and really just do that. And I think tying into your presentation, one of the first questions that kind of I had was, could you share details on the eCagra certification and what that covers? Does that cover like the randomness in the race math, the payout accuracy, breeding math, weather? Like, what exactly is that certifying in the game?
So that's eCagra does multiple certification types, right? You can do any number of things, but your first thing you have to do is your RNG. So RNG being your random number generator.
Mm-hmm.
And so anything in our game that uses anything random, right? Breeding, racing, weather, uh, coat colors, genetics, you name it, right? All those
Mm-hmm.
things that have a random call, um, you basically have to do this big process where you run like hundreds of millions of simulations, you do all this stuff, and you go back and forth with them and make sure that it's truly random and certified random. And then they lock that version of all that code, for example. So like if anything were to change, we're no longer certified, right? It's no longer valid. And so in terms of your other question there, like, is payouts correct or things like that, like they have a separate product certification that we talked about. We haven't done yet. I'm a little unsure whether we will or not. But effectively, let's say that the best way to think about this is like, let's say that we're a game developer, a game provider for slot games for a casino, like an online casino. If you look at like a pragmatic play for one of those people, they have your core math audited at the bottom, the RNG, that's that. And then now when I make a new slot game that uses that RNG, as long as that RNG is the same, they don't re-audit any of that. But then the game, they audit does, when it displayed that I won $1 million, did $1 million arrive in my account. So that they do a product audit as well.
Basically for the outcomes to try to match the math.
It's visual display. Like it's basically like user visual display of like when they put the bet in, did the bet arrive? When they get the bet back, did it arrive? Is that all accurate? And like I said, we've looked at doing that one. I'm not sure when we will.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the stuff I talked about earlier there about like the licensing of the B2B side and doing all those, a lot of that is sort of like another person uses our underlying like race math, visualizations, all of those things. So we don't need the product verified for them to do that. That was
Yeah.
what a lot of the RNG stuff was for, so that like the core is available for other people to use. Yeah, so like actually like making photo finish live specifically as the app itself certified is a different process. Like I said, we haven't
Gotcha.
tackled it yet, but it also felt like, they're expensive. They take a long time. They're very expensive, and it's just sort of like, I don't know, photo finish at this point. It's like everyone, we got all these things in there. The crypto certifications, you got the stable coins are moving in wallet to wallet. It's just sort of like, it's not as much of a concern to me that something is off in those. I mean, everything's
Yeah.
been locked down for years. Of
Yeah.
course, like a new user coming in would love to know, oh,
Of course. I mean,
that part,
poker
but like,
dealt with the same thing for so many
mm,
years. And like, it's been nearly 4 years, your product that I've been playing, your game.
right,
And, I'm actually starting creating a product that does a lot of sims and stuff like that. And so one of the people, him, was basically like, well, with Ian's RNG, what do you think about it? And I was like, well, with the race math and the breed math, I think it's like perfect, and a lot of people, we kind of had questions, how will it work? And even we talked about, the SS being born, and I'm just really lucky. When I was going through kind of like the parent breed scores, it looked like I probably had like the 30th or 35th best chance to
mm,
get an SS. So all those people above me are kind of looking at me like this lucky asshole, But I think that kind of
right,
is showing a lot of the stuff about the breeding. And then season on season, I'm always scared to even sell my worst foals, especially those with high preferences, because the breeding, the variance is so real that horse could be a monster. And so
right,
I think that, talking about the certification and the integrity, that kind of transitions really well into, the challenges that we faced. And probably one of the main reasons we're doing this question and answer is, based on some of the breeding mistakes that happened over the previous months. And I'm not even going to rehash like, the turmoil part or, the user experience, but I just want to highlight, that for the most part, since the very beginning of the game, every single time this has happened, you guys have made really good decisions on fairness and integrity and realizing that like, oh, we have a problem. This isn't that fair. We're going to have to roll back, even if it means a lot of work for us. And so in that, we got to give you guys, kudos for that. But then we do see this pattern emerging, where consecutive months we've faced mistakes, and then even this past one, we call it a really simple mistake. It's almost kind of like fumbling the snap, this mechanism that we've had yeah,
Yeah.
almost for what, 2 years now. I don't know when it
Yeah.
was put in. And so that just brings up questions about, the QA processes, the quality control. And it's kind of funny because I was quality control coach when I was at JUCO. And so, over checking things and trying to make sure that we're not missing anything is really important to delivering the product. And so, like, where did that lapse? And then how did you guys improve? And what can we really expect going forward are kind of the biggest questions, I think, in those regards.
Yeah. So I mean, the first on like how it lapsed, it's one of those things where it was like a massive tech refactor, right? All of the stuff being on chain, API integrations, like it's just like a lot of changes happened to the underlying core technology. And when we go into our testing phase with our three QA testers that have, they basically copy one of you guys' stables. Like we will bring
Yeah.
down production, and they'll act as you, they'll act as soulmate, or whatever. But they're nowhere near you guys, right?
Yeah.
They're not. And there's like, that's not an excuse, but that's basically to tell you how it goes. It's like, so then they go and they breed 50 horses, works fine, everything moves, and we kind of like, all right, I guess it's good to go. And then, call it 3 seasons ago, that one was the first one that just like kind of really like got real slow. It didn't like
Yeah.
blow up, but it just kind of got slow.
Yeah. There was some,
And Bryce is like lighting us up, what's going on? I think I was gone or something. Paul's there. It's like, oh shit. And then all of a sudden it's fine. And we're like, I don't know. Like, what the hell? We look, oh, it looks like this server was bad. We don't know. And so, a million other things take precedent. And, I think people all looked at it, said, okay, I think I'm going to, juice this server up. I think probably be fine. And then the next one, the one that actually tipped over, you know, that was like the nightmare. That was like Labor
mhm.
Day. That was a day off too. It's like, everyone's gone.
Yeah, it was Labor
Um,
Day, right?
yeah, Labor Day. Yeah, so it's like it always happens like that shit. It's like, everyone's like on the road with their family and shit tips over. So yeah, that one was like, okay, how do we react to this? I was talking to Bryce. I'm literally like grilling. And I'm talking to Bryce on the huddle, and I'm like, we have to roll it back. Like there's just no. If you're telling me what you're telling me is accurate, that
Yeah.
some people are in and some people aren't,
Yeah.
like we got to kill it. And so then I'm trying to call Paul. He's like on the road, and it's just like kind of just caught with our pants down.
Hmm.
Like on a Labor Day weekend, not expecting it when we should have. Um, and then okay, going forward on that, it's like, well, let's fix it. Let's roll it back. We'll do it again without fully knowing exactly what went wrong, but
Hmm.
assuming we had found it. Paul was pretty confident. He's like, I feel pretty good that we found it. This and that, this and that. He did. He found something, but something else tipped over. On the one that we did a few days later.
Do you think it was an exact attack, or do you just think it was
No,
someone running a process that just ran a million times and then kind of crashed everything?
definitely wasn't an attack. There's our stuff that
Yeah.
just did not handle. I think I put something out at some point that like one of our systems would try and go look up emails for people. It's like that's just a random job that runs like every 5 minutes to go see, oh, should I email someone if they have a horse that's in a
Yeah, to
race?
register their horse. I turn off
Simple.
these
Yeah.
emails every month, but I have to keep turning them off. So I
Well,
would like to
log
just be
that.
able to
I'll fix it.
permanently turn these things off in.
Yeah, log it
But
to me and I'll
also, do you
fix it.
guys just have like a kill switch where when things are going wrong, you can just shut it down? Or is that not
Yes, but it's privileged. That's one of the problems, and we just recently fixed that up. But yes, it was privileged, so only me and Paul.
okay?
And so Bryce, who's like finger on the pulse there, can be like, "Hey, Brady's fucked. I need to stop it." But
Yeah.
he didn't have access. It was like, oh, so that's one of those operational things that again you kind of don't know until it happens to you in live. But anyway, it was super frustrating, man. Of course, we're super bummed. But yeah, that email service, that was the one that actually was what was crashing. So the server gets under major load, and breeding is kind of slowly, it's working its way through its clip. It's working. Okay, fine. Then this random service comes across and it's like, hey, I need to send an email. It chokes because there's nothing
Yeah.
ready. But then it pulled everything down. So it didn't
Okay.
handle the servers right. And you're like, oh my God. So what did we do to solve that though? Then
Yeah.
that was really Paul's like, all right, we can't keep trying to do this quickly. I'm gonna like everyone out. I'm gonna go and write unit tests that test this at huge scale,
Yeah.
like something that will test this and fire hundreds of thousands of requests a second.
Yeah.
Hit the chain, do all the things that basically you guys do when it gets hit hard. And so that's why it worked a lot better the last time. It worked perfectly well, except he accidentally left off cooldown while
Yeah.
he was testing. Because again, he was trying to put massive load on the servers. It happens, man. It happens to all of us. It sucks. And it was like, oh Jesus,
Yeah.
that one was a major. Like I was really bummed at that one because it was like we reacted really quickly.
It was Jaden Daniels last night, literally a very third and one, very simple thing,
Yeah,
that
and
got
just
fumbled,
fumbled. Yeah, it
And
was Mark
so,
Sanchez butt fumble, more accurately. But
yeah,
yeah,
well, I think there was raining. There was some rain involved. We won't give you the butt fumble.
mm,
But so you talk about, how your QA guys aren't necessarily as good as us.
yeah,
Is it possible to develop QA agents, maybe study our pattern? I saw recently in PFJC where you guys were actively trying to get us to send you videos of what we do day
yeah.
to day. And I plan to do this with you guys. I just haven't had time yet. But to kind of give you, and I think that's been a big gripe for a lot of us, is that you guys do see this game from the developer standpoint and not necessarily
Can't
the
play it.
playing standpoint. And that ties back into your friction, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so I think, how much of those things are small team issues, versus,
Mm.
idea or pattern issues that we can improve on?
It's a good question. I mean, all of it can be improved on, but
Yeah.
it's small team, yes, but like I mean, I worked on the biggest QA teams in the world, and they still let these
Yeah.
games crash when they
Hmm.
launch. It's like if it was easy, everyone would do it. I say that a lot. It's
Yeah.
just sort of like one of those things. Like servers tip over, it sucks. Live services are like not fun to work on. It just kind of happens. These were own goals more than anything else,
Yeah.
but they happen. So I think for us, it's really about continuing to do more of that hardcore unit test, stress test
Hmm.
programmatically. So like you say agents, but it's just robot stuff that can fire lots of requests. I've talked a lot about like I wish we could put our game out in staging environments so you guys could hammer it the way you normally do, but
Yeah.
it's
That
too
would,
problematic because
and it
like sometimes
requires
there
a
might
lot
be
of us too. I mean, we're
yeah
already spending so much time. I
so
think
much
one of the
time on
things
there.
we'll get
Yeah,
into is, we are
yeah,
spending a lot of time, et cetera. And so I think that, that bridges the gap to this other question I had, which, I thought it was really good that you guys decided to bridge the difference to keep the free rolls funded, knowing that this on goal, as you have described it, was gonna, have less breeding, whether it's people just disgruntled or just, they had already spent the time and effort. They don't want to go back and spend more time and effort, et
yeah.
cetera. But you guys did that. And can you kind of share where that funding comes from? Like, is that a large reserve or a war chest? And then what's it look like if breeding keeps kind of trending down,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, that's like out of my pocket when that goes bad, right? That's cash, Derby, that's directly out of me, for
Yeah.
us, third time.
Uh-huh.
But moving forward, we obviously can't do that.
Yeah, that
But
seems crazy.
yeah, but like the sustainability of the company matters more than anything so that you guys can keep playing.
Yeah.
At the same time, we realize like if you start cutting purses, then you can kind of death spiral and things can kind of really get, obviously down. Now, of course, the whole reason we're working on all this other stuff is to increase the purses externally. But until that happens, effectively what I'm proposing and what we'll probably launch with the upcoming season is keeping the relative numbers the same that they've been. Like, it's like say we pretend it's 180K of breeding, for example,
Yeah.
is the total amount that is getting funded with purses, but maybe the lower end purses get crown STEMI instead. So we use 1 million crown out of our own treasury each season, which we have plenty of that. And we can also, the Crown Foundation, I cleared with them as well. They've got tens of millions of crowns still with the goal of the Crown Foundation's goal is to make Crown more valuable. And they're fully aligned that, racing being uh, like up is the most valuable thing they can do. And so they're willing to also contribute into purses to juice racing and make sure that like we can survive any sort of like little dip. Now again, that doesn't last forever. That's why every play
Yeah.
to earn game dies. But like right now we're looking at hopefully within, this year, within this quarter, a lot of crown pressure coming from Bet5
Yeah.
and from Open Tote. And so, to weather that storm so that players don't have to think, oh geez, I'm gonna lose money. Like we just make up the difference with crown.
So that's
Um,
basically the formal reserve strategy for these types of things. And so obviously, I think, one of the things we'll get into at the very end is kind of gestation period. And basically, we're we're breeding horses, and then the next season is kind of formulated from the previous season. So you're breeding horses that might they have an unknown future 3 months from now. Let's just say
yeah,
that. And then so for a lot of those people breeding, their first question will be, well, what is going to be the first area affected? If the breeding revenue softens, would it be the prize pools? Which specific ones? I would imagine that your core 3-year-old majors are going to be the very last, just
correct.
I would just
Yeah,
guess, and so
yes.
this is a question for you of, what are the first areas that you would envision kind of replacing with that crown or cutting kind of altogether in the current schedule or seasons?
Well, the plan is to not cut at all, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and at least for a year, like we're,
Hmm.
we're work. I mean, again, the foundation has all the crown needed. We have a bunch still in reserve from
And that's
semis
at
and
like the
all
current
that.
valuation would be
5 cents.
enough,
Yeah.
basically.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. There's tons, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, again, that's been there for all these initiatives, for market makers, for this, for that. I mean, it's just like, and that's their thing. But obviously, the most valuable that we all agree is to make racing work.
Yeah.
And
And
so I,
ideally, we want these things to continue upwards, I mean,
yeah, yeah.
obviously, we're all in this with the same goals. It's
Yeah,
really about how to achieve those types of goals, right?
like nothing would make me feel better. I know it's weird to say, like, but like you guys all get 800,000 crown from from the minors or the undercards or whatever they are, and crown quadruples.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
there
that
we
was a
go. Like
great
that.
time.
Yeah,
Speaking
let's
from a
do that again.
personal
Yeah,
experience,
yeah,
when Crown's at $2, and a lot of the stuff you bought was from a hacker, which was another. I think you kind of got a little lucky, but you handled that amazingly. I think
oh,
we got lucky in the fact that that hacker was willing to sell immediately. But I
yeah.
think,
Still holding it.
it
Yeah,
was really cool to kind of see the community overcome that. And I think we have overcame so many challenges. And I think when you take a step back from that day, like when the breeding things occur, you take a step back and you're like, even at our worst time, which is kind of right now, and where we have a lot of questions about the future, everything feels uncertain, feels like everything's going down. Even our worst time, we're at the top of the revenue volume stats of Solana. So you don't really want to get into this negative feedback loop there. And really, I kind of feel like no matter what, there's this barrier that we kind of won't go below. And of course, we're challenging that, with some sentiment and users kind of leaving, even some of my main friends who I got in this or who maybe coordinated a lot of the stuff, they might have left, and
yeah,
so I think that is a good segue into talk about where the game is headed, what you're building toward, how you balance the vision with the realities of the user experience. And one of the things you guys talked about a while back and you introduced was free to play product, right? And so from a user, it kind of feels like we're balancing, this bet vibe win thing, which has an extraordinarily high ceiling. It might be a really hard challenge, competitive environment. You're trying to do something a lot of other companies are doing. It seems like the meta of that is pushing the books out of the way. The sports books, traditional sports books, seem like they're going to kind of die. And there's these new revolutionary ideas. And one of them is prediction markets. I actually should have went to the Poly Market launch party they had Wednesday of here last week, but I didn't want to go. But they're crushing. And so then
yeah,
there's all these on chain prediction where it's user versus user rather than paying a chunk to the sports book every time. And so you guys have these visions and you have these competing ideas. One is this free to play product that was kind of introduced. I would say hasn't really taken off, or maybe hasn't been as curated as a lot of us would like to see. You know,
Yeah.
you've talked even in your slideshow today about a lot of the marketing issues, right? And I think
Yeah.
that, all right, well, we're a small team with a small budget. We can all agree on that. We don't have infinite. We don't even have what a lot of the startups have, where they can spend 1 million, 2 million in marketing, right? Is
Hmm.
that correct? I'm just postulating it.
We've had moments where we could, but yeah, sometimes it's sort of
Okay.
like I don't know where I would even spend it if we did, but yeah.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
so the question that I think I and a lot of others ask is, maybe, you guys have really succeeded in the past with a free to play product. What does that look like? Is it possible to curate? Is it worth your time? How much time would it take the team to kind of fully develop that to where you are getting thousands of new users in this? And do you think that they would translate, or are you kind of off put that the HRM people didn't show up and so that's the reason you don't want to
Right.
do it? My personal experience would be like, I would do the free to play, but I would change the game immensely to where you can kind of gamify it. You can make people engage hardcore as much as they want, whether you lift the time constraints or whatever. And I think, with our product, you've done great in sacrificing some gamifying things, that would come at the cost of a user like me. But when it's free to play, maybe that would help you guys as a company, or help us develop, a natural onboarding mechanism. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, so I teased it there, and I'll show it relatively. I don't know. Soon, I don't want to say soon because soon is whenever, but
Yeah.
like Road to the Derby is a lot of that idea,
Okay.
and you can call it Road to the whatever. Really, it's just the idea of these free to play sort of attempts with trainer series, with other stuff that's been going on. I've just really been like underwhelmed with anything we've made. It hasn't been big enough or good enough.
Are you a perfectionist, or they're literally not working and you're being realistic?
No, they're not good enough to like scale. It's like
Hmm.
so there's a couple of problems, right? And I talk about them a little bit in the roadmap. It's like you can't advertise Photo Finish Live. You can't run paid ads for it
Hmm.
because it's got all this real money stuff, right? It's got gambling things in it, skill-based game here, gambling license there. It's very complicated, and so basically none of the people will touch it. You could advertise it on porn sites, but you can't advertise it on anywhere else.
Hmm.
And I tried that and it didn't work. Research. But
Yeah.
so the thing that I think needs to happen is a product that can be advertised to everyone in the world, can be played by everyone in the world, can be downloaded by everyone in the world, and can graduate them into what we believe is one of the best late meta game designs in history for the
Yeah.
finish line. But it's like if you think about sort of game as a funnel, from what they do at the beginning to what they start doing every day for years. Like we kind of built the end first. You
Yeah.
guys all jumped in feet first,
Yeah.
and then you were
100%.
amazing. But like no one else can get that far, or some people can, but just not many, right? And
Yeah.
so it's really about, for me, it's a mobile forward experience that is free to play, that's engaging on its own, that is. So I've got working prototypes now that I love, that I think are like the right approach. And so we are working on that actively.
Yeah.
Not, I think, whereas you look at like the last couple of years, like Trainer 2.0, and like we built a lot of that stuff. And I just like, it would get to the end and I'd be like, this is not enough. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
work. It,
Hmm.
it
It
even if
still
it's
has the
okay,
clunkiness, the complexity, which are a
yeah.
lot of the onboarding issues that we face,
And you can't
right?
advertise it.
Okay.
Same problem. It's like, let's say we made a perfect Trainer series in
Yeah.
Photo Finish Live. You can't advertise it because it's like, oh, you're advertising for a gambling game. No, no, no. It's just a series at the beginning. Like so you kind of have to break them and separate their church and state a little. And so that's what we're working on. And like I said, I'm extremely pleased. I've demoed it to the team the last 2 weeks, like my little prototype of it, and I think everyone's excited, trepidation, but I'm going out there with it a little, but yeah, I think it's good. But I mentioned in the roadmap, like, so one of the things I did before we set out on that journey, though, is I basically made a fake landing page, fake app for it, for this idea,
Yeah.
and ran ad campaigns to see how much it cost for people to click on it, how many people clicked on it, how many people did it. And it was super encouraging, like low cost per install, lots of interest right away. It's like, okay,
yeah. So I felt a lot more like energized of like, this is the right approach. This
And
is how we can run scalable
yeah.
acquisition.
And so scaling, we obviously are going to talk about the learning curve. The navigation complexity are still major hurdles, like with the race
Yeah.
schedule, it can be difficult to understand still the filtering tools. But are you basically, do you have mechanisms and systems in place to basically track how new players move through each step and then what's being done to kind of simplify or streamline that user experience? Because I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've always considered, especially trying to build another product, is thinking about how do you just make this like a fifth grade reading level, basically.
Yeah, yeah. We have a lot of that analytics of like the heat mappy stuff of like where they go. I
Yeah.
typically get a lot more data out of their sort of server side behavior, which is just like they got a horse, they entered it in a race. That was the last thing we ever saw out of them. They got a
Yeah.
horse, they entered a race, they entered it again. That's the last we ever saw of them. They got a horse, they deposited, they entered a race, they lost, they withdrew, they never saw them again.
Yeah.
Those are the things that you kind of see that are, like, yeah, it's tough to quantify. Was it the UX that lost them, or was it the fact they just lost money?
Yeah. It's
Um,
probably the latter. I mean,
yeah,
this
that's a big
happens
part
in
of it.
DFS, that happens in
Right.
poker, but then, yeah. And so then you just start thinking, well, are these realistic solves basically? Are there realistic solves for us as a team? And then I guess that's kind of what the road to the Derby will kind of feel like. And I think, and so when you are kind of balancing your time, as a small team, does it like hurt to kind of go back and think? I guess my question is, did you expect you would need to do this at this point of the time?
Mm.
you know,
This
because
many years in.
yeah, maybe you
Uh,
thought
right.
we would have grown and maybe we didn't need to take that road and this is a
Hmm.
new idea to kind of fix an old problem.
Yeah. I don't. That's for sure. I thought that we would launch mobile. Like our whole plan was like get it working on web, build a mobile app, scale the mobile app. Like that was really it. Like getting on web, there was obviously lots of work to get that working. That's
Hmm.
phase one. We found product market fit in the fact that you guys all started playing it, even in beta for not real money, paying the
Yeah.
shit out of it. So it's like, okay, we're out. All right, great. All right, so let's work on mobile now. Then we'll start to scale it up. But also in that middle, right, we had this like huge distraction of Crown 10xing. We just call it a distraction, but like it was awesome,
Yeah.
of course, super fun for everyone. But at the same time, it's like it masked a lot of problems because all of a sudden every race is full and everything's going fine. I knew that it wasn't good. It's
Yeah.
not like, oh, this is great. Like every day we all know like this is going to be bad, but it's like, hey, let's enjoy it while you can. But in terms of like, okay, we get mobile done, took forever to get that approved by Apple,
Yeah.
and but then immediately couldn't run ads on it anywhere, and that was a big like surprise of
Okay.
like, okay, shit, this is not scalable. And so then we hired an agency that had a lot of experience in running gambling, skill gaming ads in the U.S. We ran that for 6 months, and just results were just not good. Like they just no one would
Okay.
convert. You know.
I guess that answers one of my questions,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a lot of our questions about why wasn't this continually developed? And it was because you ran into this huge roadblock, this hurdle that even if you continue developing, you can't market and bring
Yeah.
it to
And
people.
it's chicken and the egg a little. It's like if we had a better, free to play, then we could have
Yeah.
marketed that. But then at the same time, it's obviously there's just a million priorities all the time. At the
Uh-huh.
same time, you got a live product, and it's like every 2 days there's something on fire in the live product. But regardless, yeah, there's no way to predict any of this stuff. But the plan was always, yeah, web, then mobile, then scale mobile. And so for that sort of like eye-opening thing to be like, well, that product is not scalable the way it is. You start looking at like, shit. Well, now what do we do? Like, now what's the sort of approach? And that's where simulcast came out of. Like, okay, we can scale it by kind of groundswell, going out and attacking other people.
Hmm.
That's run into then, as I mentioned, I think that run into issues because the schedule's so weird that then like, oh, that doesn't quite work perfect. And so, you have this thing where it's like you got the core product, you got the core users, and you just keep kind of poking at other stuff to try and solve it. And people may disagree with me every day on if I'm doing the right thing or not, but that's what we're trying to do. It's not like we're trying to just give up. We're trying everything. Um, and I feel confident in this one, but also you never know.
Yeah, you
This one
don't
I
know.
feel this one I feel a lot more confident because we actually tested it.
Uh-huh.
Like, this is the first thing where it's like, okay, we didn't test simulcast in a bar. We couldn't because it didn't work. But we thought, well, this is a great idea. And then we got it into a bar, we tested it, and it was like no one wants to wait 15 minutes in between a race. And you're like,
So
oh,
how do you
okay.
deal with those types of ideas where, you think could work, go great, doesn't work, you get that feedback, then what is going on? I don't want to turn this into a therapy session, but kind of
Right.
personally, how do you deal with that? And then as a team, it seems like a pivot, or at least kind of facing the facts and then trying something else out is kind of what I'm hearing. But if you want to
I saw
expand on that a little more.
yeah, I mean, I saw an interview the other day, actually. It was like a week ago with Bezos and talking about Amazon's culture, was them around building a culture where they could fail faster than anyone.
Hmm.
And that's really what it is about. Like people think it's like, no, it's about succeeding perfectly every time. It's like, no, it's about failing super fast.
Yeah.
And that was the whole idea of like, let's run an ad on this game, this new app idea, this new free to play experience before we build the whole thing. Because what if the ads come back and you can't run them or no one installed it, right? Like, so that was really kind of proud of like that move because now I feel like I've got a lot more like, okay, shit, there is an audience for this.
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of knew it from the old games, but it's been 9 years since we ran ads on the old, or 7 years or something. The old, so
And I think it's powerful to kind of share that. I mean, obviously in poker, I basically have been immune to failure. In tournament poker, you basically lose 99 times. Even when you get close and you get like 8, it's just not enough to kind of move the bar financially
mm-hmm,
month to month or year to year. And so, but
mm-hmm,
to talk about that is really powerful. And I think that that's why these things are so important to kind of, it just shows your strength and ability to kind of be vulnerable. And so we can kind of, I think like once players do get comfortable in the game, then, racing feels more rewarding and keeps them engaged. And
yep,
so, with the racing participation, I haven't seen recent numbers, but I know, we talked about the Crown Stimmy days to like season 27. I saw, a constant lowering of actual
mm-hmm,
users, and it seems and it feels like that's been steadily declining. And so that opens up a lot of the community to kind of talk about how to fix it. And so
mm-hmm,
growth for Crown is kind of tied to the racing, and the racing is kind of tied to, this concept of expected value. We call it EV. And
mm-hmm,
so every time that racing has been, neutral EV or plus EV, which basically means your loss or your attrition rate is much lower, it's been great, and it grows. And so it kind of feels like we're in this loop of until we get that again, we might not see growth in the race participation. So what are like the short and the long-term strategies to kind of turn that over month to month and then, year on year type thing?
yeah, it's a super big problem, like that. We are fully heavily focused on, and so the short term, the thing that I've teased a little while back, and we're trying to get implemented as soon as we can. It's a little bit tricky, is the spillover idea. And so part of our issue, number one, is that roughly 60% of the races, 50% of the races each day cancel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and those are one of the number one drivers of retention loss of players. Is like,
Yeah, when a
man, you
canceled
join,
race, you
I'm out
just,
of here.
it's a
Fuck it.
deflating
Totally
thing. You're like,
sucks.
why try again?
Yeah, yeah, it's really bad. And they've gotten worse and worse and worse. And it's like, it's really hard. It's not Bryce's fault or anyone making the schedule because the schedule is so big, the horse population is massive, and everyone is saying there's not enough races for me,
Hmm.
right? Like every day. But in reality, they're not filling because everyone's kind of gotten more and more targeted. So spillover is this idea that you create larger buckets down in the lower tier, allowance and claiming and maiden and stuff, where these races can fill and then keep filling. They can keep creating stacks of themselves. So you can think of it like an
So you
open
don't have a
entry.
set schedule, it's a sit and go.
Yeah, and it's just gonna like, oh, 600 horses entered into today's maiden on left dirt. Okay, it just then goes and separates them all out into 10 different, or however
Do you
many, 60
randomize the
races.
funnels at that point and the weather, or is the weather kind of known?
That's where I think they're working on. Like I thought it would be cool to have it known, but then I think they were going to try doing random and like I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
what, but like hypothetically, if you enter, all of you enter this thing and it says 40% chance of rain, well, it kind of makes sense that like half of you get rain and half of you don't, you know, like um, when they go create all their copies or their clones
Yeah.
or whatever. So I think that's where they're at right now, but probably could test either one. Um,
So
but so that like stopping cancellations is like one of the most concrete things that we can do to at least like stem some of the loss. I think of like
mhm,
anyone that gets in and gets interested, and then it's like, I don't know what race to enter, and if I do enter, it cancels. Like that really helps solve a lot of that, and that's what
yeah.
people don't know. That's how Horse Racing Manager works. It's just kind of always there, never,
It's
you
a
know.
matchmaking service. You're basically
Yeah,
doing, what a lot of other things, and I think it does make sense because that was always kind of one of my offerings. Obviously, when you have these schedules for free rolls, doesn't necessarily work. I mean, you could create daily sit and goes that give you points or whatever, to where no matter what, these entries in this thing, it's going to take off.
hmm,
You almost probably would have to get rid of the schedule, or I guess try it like you're saying at the smaller versions that don't have the schedule, free roll,
yeah,
etc. And
yeah.
so could you like give a concrete example of how you define, or measure success in racing participation? Like, do you guys have numbers? Do you like track metrics of like percentage horses race weekly that are of the population?
Yeah,
Or do you
yeah,
guys have like EV targets per race class, per person?
yeah. So we have a daily Slack message that comes in that effectively shows like all the top level stats of racing participation, race entry fees, breeding participation, breeding per grade, like race type, race type breakdown, cancellation rates for race type, all of that stuff to like see, and then all of those have previous season as well as target goals.
Hmm.
And so like the unfortunate part is like every day Slack message has been a downer, because
Yeah.
it's like missed again, missed again, but that's
There's a
like
lot of hidden stuff too. And
yeah,
I noticed even personally, my 2-year-old class, probably one of the, or maybe it's 3-year-old, one of those is like the lowest new foals I've ever had. It was like 60, and
mm,
then 80. And then next season I'll have like 110. So that shows kind of where my breeding sentiment has been. I don't know what
yeah,
changes might have occurred or whatever. And so then, your percentage of horse raced is probably only equivalent to the horses that could possibly race, rather than,
right,
previous seasons populations could have been different, etc. So
yeah.
like, do y'all have a person that just studies this, tries to figure this out, or is this more a global problem that you're all trying to figure out?
No, I mean, I think it's me, Paul, and Bryce, um, you know, typically trying to crack the code, right? And so we look at spillover for sure as like this key change to how a lot of these are going to operate. And then like after that, what's next? It's like, get more horses on the track, get more people into the funnel, like, but this one seems so very clear that like we're having this major problem of people wanting to race.
Yeah.
Here's my money, Ian. I would love to race. And I'm like, nope. That's like our biggest failure. That's the easiest to like, we've got to solve that. And then now we'll move up the rung into the next, like, wow, people are racing 3 times in parking.
Hmm.
There's just a ton of that
So
like
you're not
level
even
of,
there yet. You're
yeah, I
kind
don't think
of in
so.
the
Yeah.
elemental stage of, we got to fix the cancellations. And I think like the sit and go idea is interesting, and it'll come with some frictions for us as a user where, it's not going to be easy process. I think change is always really tough on
Hmm.
everyone,
I
and I
know.
think like
Yeah.
that's when we get a lot of our crazy moments in Discord, is whenever there's change. And then that kind of ties
Yeah.
right into some of the questions about how the racing is structured, because right now the race schedule is kind of heavily weighted around these free rolls, these qualification events, which definitely does a great job of driving engagement early. And
Hmm.
so it definitely creates some like what I call pacing challenges though, because even me as a big stable, I have, a finite budget. And so even if I have a great horse that's guaranteed in that race, I might focus on getting some middlers that might not be in there, and that horse might sit for a few extra days, et cetera. And so there's like this mid-season participation drop off. And we do get the spike at the end of participation, but that's not really generating race entry fees
No,
because the free
it's free.
rolls by yeah.
Mhm.
And so how do you like balance that structure? Like how do you keep qualifying valuable while also maintaining the consistency of the race activity? Like one of the ideas I had recently was, what if like every week the points per race type kind of increased, by 25% or something like that.
Right.
I don't know. Obviously, you have to test these ideas or kind of try to poke holes in all the wrong or what
Mhm.
could really screw up with ideas like that. But like, what are your guys' strategies there? Or.
Yeah, I mean, I think like Bryce has shown, obviously Bryce owns that whole area, and Paul and
Yeah.
I are there to try and help him with analytics. And he's shown like an unbelievable resolve to try and make it work and to try new things too. Now, even though it's so funny you said like we all kind of hate change, and yet everyone every day wants it to change
Yeah,
because it's
that
like
is
it's not
true.
good enough. But it's like, yeah, that's how it is. It's like this is
Only
how it's
change
gonna
the
be.
bad things, not the
Only
good
change the bad
things.
things. Yeah, no problem. We'll do. Um, and so, there's things that like have been met with such like, you know, uh, pushback, like the breeding age change to like, shit, maybe we did have it wrong,
Hmm.
we had all these assumptions of what it was going to
You're
do, and
ready
then
to
maybe,
admit that, huh?
I don't, maybe,
We'll get into that. We'll get
yeah,
into
if we get
that.
to that one, it's just sort of like those are the questions that we're trying. You want us to try, you want us to fix things. We will try, and we will also look if they work or not. So no one's fault, no one's wrong. Like, so I think in terms of the strategy there, like I think the notion of the like pacing of the season is decent in that like you got that push through, and then the kind of last week is everyone knows it's coming. And when you think about how many months it took us to get to here,
Yeah.
where it now starts to feel a little like, okay, maybe a radical change isn't needed, maybe small tweaks are needed, as opposed to like it always felt like we were chasing our tail. We're pushing the schedule at the last second. Everyone's like, "What the fuck happened to this? Where's benchmarks?" And everything's crazy.
Is
So
that going to
Bryce
happen
has
again now that breeding is kind of the last week? Like, do you guys end up in a
right,
scramble where you're like, we don't know how much? I mean, I guess you've kind of, if you're going to
yeah,
put in the crown, then maybe
we're gonna
that's not a
backstop
big
it.
scramble.
Yeah, yeah. That's the hope. Is like we don't want to scramble, and we don't want you to scramble. Like the last thing we want anyone playing and breeding is thinking like I'm going to do this horse right now, and in 3 months it's going to be worthless. So it's like
Yeah.
we're trying to get that guarantee out again. Working with Bryce with that just literally this morning. I'm like, can we get the foundation to give 10 million crown? So that
Yeah.
everyone's like, all right, there it is, and we know it's coming. So I feel
Yeah,
good.
we'll get
There's
into
things
one
like
of
that.
Zedge's ideas in a bit too, and David popped his head
Yeah.
in the discussion. And one of the things that people have kind of been discussing are these, high entry fee races. And
Hmm.
I just kind of wanted to highlight, they're for 3-year-old fillies or whatever that you're running the Oaks, and then you have another series kind of for after the free rolls to where these good racers can race. And one of the issues I ran into just yesterday, my 3-year-old filly finished the premier event, won that to get into the free roll. So that's cool that you can make this last ditch $150 effort. You can win your way in, and a lot of those are really weighted heavily. And then everyone was talking about maybe the race participation in these $100 things. I guess you guys are juicing them a little bit with Crown, maybe 50, $100 at the current value. And then I was going to put my filly in that, but it kind of would risk injury. And with RD majors being the very next day, I can't really do that. I
Right.
did do that with a left dirt girl because, it would have 2 days and I could pay the fee or whatever. And so even that, you probably shouldn't ask the user for that type of risk. But it just shows the
Mm.
complexity of all these
Yeah, it shows how
loops that you're
complicated it is.
trying
Yeah.
to create.
Yeah.
Obviously, you would want this 3-year-old filly to participate in the right dirt oaks. And so,
Hmm.
obviously Bryce is doing the schedule, you guys are doing it. It's really tough to catch these. So how do you get better at developing plans or whatever that can kind of highlight the loops you're missing for the exact horses that you would like to participate in that event, rather than, I think what sparked it was kind of people saying, oh, everyone wanted these high dollar events, no one's participating. And then I ran into a very specific reason why even I
Yeah.
wouldn't participate,
Yeah. I mean, I'll have to go back and talk to Bryce about that one. It's a great question. It's like, there's surely some automation things we could do to like kind of to see where these things are like hypothetically interfering with each other in terms of their loop, you know? But I don't think we have anything right now. I think it's all in Bryce's head. And so
Okay.
we could improve that, sort of, I could talk with him about some of that. You're in the weeds though, man. I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, I am in the weeds,
I'm
and I
not going to
did
be the
talk to
best.
him about it, and I'm
I'm
also
not going to be the best to
understanding.
answer it, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that like obviously those things are going to happen, but those are the things that we have to improve, especially if we
Yeah.
want our market, our race entry fees, et cetera. And so I'm not really even going to talk about marketing a lot. I think we've talked about that enough. I think you've been very candid in both your challenges, et cetera. But there is a question that I think a lot of people have on their mind. And I think it can apply to photo finish. I think it can apply to Bet Vibe Win. But the question basically is if I've never heard of you in those departments, how are you going to reach me? You know?
In photo finish or in Bet Five or either one?
Either one. I'd like you to kind of answer both one and just kind of the internal philosophy on those things. I think that
Hmm.
it's definitely an important question because really, with any new product or any new idea, that's probably your number one, success barometer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at photo finish, for example, so, Bet Five has different people running some of that stuff. I can answer some of the things. But, um, photo finish is definitely like, we've tried a million things. How do you
Mm-hmm.
get people to learn about us? Our goal was always to get to this scalable paid marketing so that we can just go run ads and then they're ROI positive and then they're just kind of everywhere, or at
Yeah.
least in the spots that we want to be. We go run and we're in programs, we're on billboards, we're in app store ads, all of that. That's sort of the normal thing. And you can go pay an influencer, you can go pay a streamer, you can go, pay these folks. But like, as we saw, it's just like none of those are ROI reproducible because they don't, people aren't sticking through it. They're not sticking with the product. So it's kind of like, it's not really a marketing problem, it's a product problem. You know, and similarly, Bet Vibe, I think when you look at a product like that, it's a lot easier to market. You do the same things if you go pay and you're on every person's timeline, or you go do like what Football.fun did, and you get an agency where everyone's talking about you for a week. The odds of people sticking around and going and betting are much higher than like, oh, I should buy a horse and learn how to become a horse owner. Like the total addressable market, of course, is much larger. I've seen a lot of good plans with Bet5 of working with streamers, working with partners, doing all the things, running paid ad campaigns, all that stuff that looks good. So I think I'm kind of jealous a little bit of what they have there of like much easier to get people into that product. You
Yeah.
give them bonuses. You do all the stuff that the affiliate stuff, the rakebacks, the deposit matches, the bonuses, the referral program. All that like is how casinos scale.
Yeah. Yeah, I even
Um,
noticed FanDuel. I kind of scaled back a lot of FanDuel, but this year on Showdown, especially, they expanded to 6-player rosters. They made it to where you can kind of differentiate on the showdowns, which is important for strategy. But then I noticed they're starting to give me rake back, So like I have this free
mhm.
FanDuel. I don't even know what the percentages of. I just kind of keep entering whatever. And so if paid ads or traditional marketing isn't really working for photo finish, what is the next strategy then?
Yeah, so it's Road to the Derby and the
So
other
it is the
angle.
free to play. It is creating
Yeah,
an acquisition funnel,
yeah,
basically.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's like, what's the definition of insanity, or or whatever? Like trying the same
Trying
thing
the
over and
same
over
thing
again.
over and over.
And like so with photo finish, again, I have all the belief that we find users because we still do.
Hmm.
Users show up out of nowhere. Like one of the recent, like really great players, he saw a bunch of bet slips on the OTB and was like, oh, cool. He just showed up and he's been a great player, and like
Hmm.
recent winners of majors have been relatively new players. It's like,
Yeah,
it's awesome to see as opposed to like, no offense, YSM winning over and over again or
100%.
something.
I mean, I think YSM would want to see that. You know I would
Absolutely.
want to see that. I think
Yeah.
all of us entrenched guys, we know we have stables can compete, and obviously we want to keep competing and winning each day to day. But I think we all realize new user success stories kind of drives more new user success stories, which
Yeah.
if you're any good at the game, you'll succeed over the long run. So, earlier you talked about 3, 4-year-old gestation, or not the gestation period,
Oh yeah.
but the
On the
retirement
age.
decision.
Mhm.
And so what was the reasoning behind that? Was it the right move at the time? Have you saw the results that you wanted from that?
No, it didn't change much. It made people like, race more, get out there and race more. Got another
Uh-huh.
season, get out
Yeah.
there and get in these series. Didn't matter, right? And
Yeah.
I
So the
mean,
4-year-old participation is basically what you were
yeah,
aiming for.
yeah, and then like, okay, it helps us with our schedule too, of like the way the week's set up, and there's not this sort of like the double dip thing we were always worrying about, all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, just pull the plug, it'll be fine, we'll do it. Everyone will be mad, but it'll be fine. And it's just
Yeah.
sort of like, all right, well, maybe it's not. Maybe people want that sort of like quicker into retirement, quicker into breed,
Yeah, I
less
feel
about
like most
racing.
people do want that in.
Yeah.
Like even me, I'm keeping a lot of 4-year-olds out there to race just because I see that the participation isn't great. So a bunch of middling horses will get in. I know that the variance is enough that even a middling horse can win on any given day. So I'm
Mhm.
willing to do that. I think that there is this idea of power creep, and so there's this philosophy of strategy of, do you want to keep breeding for the higher earnings as a 3-year-old and kind of advance your bloodlines? Or do you want to kind of try to win more money as a 4-year-old in a time where it's tough to win money, maybe slide back a little? I mean, like strategy wise, and I don't know, have you considered turning it back? I feel like just
Yeah.
the finger on the pulse with people, I feel
Yeah.
like most people would just want to turn it back today, you know?
Yeah, I think they do. And, I discussed with Bryce a lot about it. I'm like, should we just do it? Like I don't have the decision today, but like, yeah, maybe we just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because I mean, they're similar. There's things that like have changed that again, you just kind of don't know. But like the rake to crown literally was cut in half,
Yeah.
and it boosted racing by like 5%,
Yeah.
or something. It's
Interesting.
like there's these things where like the entire community is like, the reason no one's racing is because of the rake.
Yeah.
That's why. As soon
Well,
as rake's
so
gone, we're gonna be in there, and it's like a little bit. So there's things that like I would have believed them. You just
yeah.
don't. You sort of like make this assumption. We all kind of like, this is gonna work, and then it just sometimes it doesn't. So
And so you do talk about rake to crown, and there has been this kind of crazy idea. I think it's crazy. I didn't even really want to bring it up, but everyone keeps discussing it.
Zedge's thing.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah, love it.
basically a
I like this.
pause on the rake to crown users
Right.
to inspire racing, which I'll just be honest. My point of view before you answer is that as a user, I've seen this before, right? I've seen it with Crown. And I think
Mhm.
that sure, it might have a small boost in the short term, but I think it could hurt us long term more. And I think that we have to find real solves to the actual issue, which is trying to find the outside money or changing the current mechanisms in the game to make it more neutral EV basically as a racer, basically lower the attrition rate. But how do you view that, especially your company and y'all's ability to make money is pretty tied to the crown utility and the value.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's not something I'd jump into and just do tomorrow. I think it's a really compelling idea. That's what I love about Zedge. It's just like keep the gears turning, and maybe it's possible. I think I sort of feel similar with you that like, Crown. Everyone can feel horrible about Crown and
Yeah,
its drop, but um, it's not 0.0001, which most every other game token is. It's like
yeah,
it does have a backstop, and it can free fall. All tokens can free fall unless there's some reason. And so it's like when you remove that reason, you remove support of Crown. And there's an interesting angle there of like, I'm going to go set up a $1 million buy wall
for
I
when it
would
free
become a
falls.
pretty big buyer of Crown if I
Yeah.
knew this was the
Well, and then,
strategy, because I
I
could
know.
tell you it
Yeah.
should probably send, but I mean, every time we've
Yeah.
thought about something sending Crown a certain way, I mean, haven't always been correct. So
No, but it's a really interesting strategy. What I love about it is, yeah, just like, okay, focus on racing economy. We think that, we all sort of believe that we can get betting volume out of bet vibes,
yeah,
coffers, and until that happens, though, here's sort of a little, juicy thing. But I think the problem is like, it's really hard to make changes like that go back the way they were.
yeah,
And so then people would, be bitching incessantly if they come in later, and then all of a sudden an extra fee gets added. You sort of like, wait, what's going on? So like,
yeah.
it's always easy to price down. It's almost impossible to price back up.
Well, can we
Um,
start pricing down the breeding tax a little more, or are we going to stick there? I think that it is interesting. I was of
yeah,
the opinion that we should transfer some of the breeding tax, and I think this is really just what makes your game so compelling and complex from a developer standpoint, as well as a user, is that you have to balance all of these things, And so,
hmm,
personally, do you think that, I mean, we did see a spike in the breeding revenue, but we also changed, the retirement age at the same time. And
right,
so it's
yeah,
really tough to see, which change kind of led to that type of stuff. I kind of was for more breed tax and less race tax. Obviously, I do both a lot. So it's
right,
really
hmm,
competing avenues there. And then another thing is that people have thought about the gestation period. And a lot of people have actually made compelling arguments that a shorter gestation period is
hmm,
better for the economy, for engagement of new users, especially who might
yeah,
be breeding for the first time, et cetera. And it has been one of these things that you've had to focus on the realism versus, simulating the realism and these things.
right.
And so, have you guys considered a shorter gestation period? And if so, that comes with some complexities on how do you not kind of filter out the horse values? Like if you did it today, you would be combining two classes, and basically all of their ROI is basically cut in half, or their value might be cut in half as well. And
Right.
so, do you think that it would help
I'm not I'm not
onboarding?
seriously considering that one.
Hmm.
Now, I understand where it's coming from, like, but I'll just kind of I'll at least stick to my guns for today of like, it's also one of the biggest retention drivers in the game. And so yeah, someone that's breeding and they're brand new, they got to wait a while, but that's what's awesome about it.
Yeah,
That's what actually keeps it going. And there the amount of cans of worms it would break is too many. Like it's just like everything works on this same sort of like the dates and the schedule and the seasons and all these things. And so all of a sudden, like horses are not born when they normally are, or they're immediately three, or they're immediately one, or whatever it is. Like it's just a very like, ooh, that's gonna like have massive effects throughout the whole thing.
yeah,
That to me is just not worth it. Like Road to the Derby is a different game style that
okay,
you get your breed right away and you get to,
yeah,
but like the photo finish is like it's as real as it gets. And
yeah.
like all these things too, like it's sort of like that's why I mean sometimes you kind of have to
Do
cut them
they
in half.
matter, basically?
Yeah, because it's like, oh, we're just rearranging the deck chairs. It's like
Yeah,
it really needs a different um, thought, and that's why I like Roto Derby, of course, because yeah, it's not about the one-to-one photo finish experience, which is
yeah,
definitely wait 3 months. It's like or wait 2 months. But again, that's like the best part, and so to like all of a sudden there's no longer this sort of like Foals Day magic as they move into the foals and then they move into the maidens. It's all like just constant
my
new
wife
horses,
loves the little baby
Right,
difference
right,
in the
right.
picture. It's so
Yeah,
funny. And so I just appreciate you taking the time to kind of answer all these questions. I think the transparency means a lot to the community. I know I always get re-energized just seeing your face, trying to listen to your vision. I know that I really can't wait to check out the Road to the Derby. I
yeah.
think and hope that it does offer, that user acquisition funnel you're looking for. Is there any other partnership type stuff with the Derby in the making that could help or have different things?
Yeah, so I sort of touched on it. I could talk a little bit more here of like, um, Churchill. um, wants the road to the Derby to be as popular as the Derby,
Okay.
right? Like it's in their best benefit.
How
And
many
they're,
people watch the Derby, like worldwide?
oh, I don't know,
Is it like
hundreds
the
of
Super Bowl
millions or
numbers?
something. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, tens of millions for sure. I remember NBC having 15, 16 million audience or something on those.
Okay.
It's not Super Bowl, but close.
Yeah.
Um, but obviously no one cares about the Derby until about April.
Yeah.
And so it really helps them and behooves them for people to start caring in September or October. And the road to the Derby in real life is actually this really super compelling, interesting thing. It's kind of like the NASCAR
Yeah.
points chase or all these other things that do points. So it's not just for us about the road to the Derby, like as a gaming experience, but also sort of interactive 3D simulation, prediction, social media stuff, like
Yeah.
learning and meeting these horses before they start racing, watching replays, seeing them in 3D, doing predictions, like basically bringing that brand up is something that like we've been discussing with them and I'm excited to kind of tackle. Now, of course, like it's already sort of started.
Yeah.
We're a little behind the eight ball, but like as you get into Iroquois, all these other ones that are coming up, there's tons of races. It's a really compelling. It's worldwide. It happens in Japan. It's in Euro. So that's one area that I'm excited to like kind of mess around with them is effectively licensing our simulation engine, our 3D assets, and having Photo Finish be a part of that branding exercise. Just trying to get stuff out there for them that helps them tell the story of the road to the Derby using our stuff.
And that story is being told on Netflix now too, right?
So that wasn't them, right? That was like what Race for the Crown. And I
Oh.
think they saw that and were like, "Oh,
Yeah,
this
they
is
should do that
we
because
need
I
more
was
of these."
never an
Yeah.
F1 fan until I
Oh,
watched
exactly.
the
Same.
behind the scene.
Everyone.
And it's like now I love all the
Yeah.
storylines. And I
Mhm.
definitely have always felt that with us too. It's like to get betting, we almost need to create that narrative. How do you deliver that message or get eyes on it? Obviously, doing that with the real thing, simulating. How do you go about, and this will be my last question, I promise, and this is just kind of a personal question. How do you go about kind of taking all the data from the horses you have and then creating that RNG simulation to predict or kind of show what your RNG says is going to happen?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So we actually have some stuff that we don't really use much in Photo Finish, but is in the engine in terms of their run styles. And people have probably seen that. But like,
Oh yeah, the further they can get their legs spread out or
no,
something.
no. The
No?
actual like, are they a pace setter? Are they a stalker? Are they a
Okay,
closer?
so like when do they come on?
Right. And so a lot of that is like kind of the way the Madden guys would go fill out the ratings for the players. You do the
Yeah.
same here. You go, okay, well, I'm looking at White Barrio, and let's see, it's a closer. Okay, and put that in. I'm going to fill out what I think his finish rating is. He's SS plus. He's this, whatever. And then you just kind of watch and see what happens. And again, like right now in Photo Finish Live, bumps and blocks don't matter, right? Like we let you guys sort of like, if a horse is coming on hard in the stretch, he's just going to break through, and everyone's going to get out of his
Yeah,
way.
you can kind of visualize it.
But in a real simulation, they could like get stopped, right? And because they
Yeah.
closed and they weren't outside, they could actually get stopped. So
God,
there's a
that
lot
would
of stuff like
suck.
that. I know in real life, it's sort of like, damn it, he actually had it, but his jockey put him in the wrong spot. I mean, that's racing, right? So there's things like that that we can do in simulations that maybe photo finish users probably kind of don't really want, but that's part of predictions and real life things that could go into like, oh man, I swear I had it picked, but he
I promise
just
last
randomly.
questions, but that led me to one more talking about stayers. Uh, it seems like there's a trend where like you can be very good at 10 and very good at 12, but not so good at 11. And
Hmm.
so are you guys even aware of that? Is
I
that
have not
real
seen
or
any
is
math
that
to show
okay?
that. Like,
So the math that shouldn't be a thing,
I'm
you're
not
saying.
talking about our own math. I mean, like the
Yeah.
guy that did, was it the AI Paddock guy that did the big like charts and all that? Like, all of them are pretty linear
Okay.
lines. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
I've seen like, oh, there's a big jump up or down on 11.
Yeah, I basically, this is just a personal observation, and obviously you can't put much weight into those. You need to do scientific type stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
probably
think
just
that's
being
real.
a dummy there. So, but
I mean,
dude,
perception's reality. That's my favorite thing about it.
well,
Whatever you
I mean,
believe,
it depends if
winning
you can,
genes, whatever people believe, you never know.
yeah, Well, I believe that you have a great product. I believe still that the ceiling is very high. I wish you so much luck. I've been in this game for a long time and I still enjoy
Yeah.
it. I still enjoy, we're in major season, or major week. So it's going to be a fun week just seeing, if I can rake in any of those big prizes, win 5, 10K this week, be very nice. So
Good luck, man. Hope you do.
yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for
All right,
everything you
Mike.
do. All right.
Yeah, man. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll
All
kill
right.
it now and